The brutal truth about 24 to 70 millimeters 2.8 G Master version 2. It's been a while since this lens was released, so today we are going to talk about its build quality, optical specs, but just shortly because there's a lot of tests on YouTube about this video, but I will show you the most important things. But most importantly, I'll try to answer from a standpoint of a guy that actually took sessions with this, paid sessions with this lens. Is this the lens, the only lens that you need for your Sony system? So this will be the brutal truth. And yeah, I've shot a lot of photos with this lens. I did some in-depth tests because, as I said, it's been a long time since it was released. You can see the science of use of this lens. So that will be a very, very practical test and very, very practical answers you will find in this video. So let's start. Build quality, it's obviously very good, but I'm very happy that Sony did not continue with G Masters, they do not continue this heavy lineup philosophy. This lens is much, much smaller and much, much lighter, most importantly than the previous lens, which makes it actually a, decent lens for travel. The build quality is very good, though don't be fooled, everything works very good. The smoothness of the ring is not great, but you can adjust it to tight or smooth. Then you have click on and click off, which is great for videographers that want to change f-stop on the fly. You can of course change iris lock and then use iris, adjust iris from your camera. You have autofocus and manual focus lens like switch. You also have two programmable buttons, and there's on the back there is this little rubber coating or rubber sticking out for extra sealing, so that is actually very good. You have, as far as I remember, yes, 82 millimeters, and this lens performs really well. So when it comes to build quality, of course it's a G Master, so it's a very, very good build quality, and generally speaking Sony is making here a lot of good job. Now let's talk about the optical parameters before we get to the most important question. The optical parameters of this lens are mainly brilliant. First, sharpness. Sharpness is great. If you take if you take a look at the test photos, both on 24 millimeters at 2.8, in the center, in the corner, it is sharp. In the center is razor sharp, in the corner a little less. 40 millimeters, something between 35 and 40 millimeters, you have also amazing sharpness. Right from 2.8, and it's getting only better when you go to 5.6. So both in the middle and in the corner sharp. Same at 70 millimeters. So when it comes to sharpness, this lens is just sharp. From 2.8, any focal length you take, there's sharpness both in the center like in the corners, and full stop. To tell you like how sharp this lens is, when we took some paid jobs and took this lens with us on those photo shoots, we actually had to drop the sharpness down a little bit because we felt like it's a little too sharp. Like it looked almost too perfect, and we didn't like that look that much, So we dragged this sharpness slider down, and the photos get to more dreamy look. But anyways, that's a side point. Vignetting is perfectly controlled, not perfectly controlled, but it's a performance that you would expect from 24 to 72.8 lens, so it's very well controlled. Of course, at 2.8, specifically the wide angle, as you can see, it is visible, but it is nothing to be afraid of, so vignetting is very well controlled. When it comes to distortion, which is another very important factor here, it is very well controlled as well. There's barrel distortion, small one at 24 millimeters. At 35 to 40 millimeters, it is almost perfect, and then 70 millimeters, of course, you have slight pincushion. But again, like, this is a very universal and very bright lens, so everything so far is very well controlled. Stars at f11 to f16, very good looking. Nothing to talk about here. If you like star effects and you want to put it on tripod in the night, you won't be, disappointed. Now, work against the light. It's typical for this kind of lens. There is some flaring, there is some drop of contrast, but absolutely nothing dramatic there. This is a very well controlled lens also in this respect. Not the best one, but that you would expect from a prime lens, but it is pretty good. Bokeh. When it comes to bokeh, I like the look of this bokeh. It is not too busy, but it is a bokeh from a zoom lens. So it is not as great as you would get with a prime lens, and you have to face it. That's something you're looking at. If you have, like me, if you have tested a lot of prime lenses, bright lenses, a little darker lenses from many manufacturers, then you will notice that this bokeh is not as perfect as you would get from a prime lens, but it is a very nice bokeh. So it is not too busy, it is pretty rounded, it is pretty nice, like for a zoom lens. Autofocus performance is just perfect, both on my A7 Mark III and A7 Mark IV and A7 Mark V. You know, at every camera, with every Sony camera, you have this, you know, focus breathing reduction, compensation, and this thing performs really well. It's fast, it's smooth, and it's quiet. So that is very good news for videographers. Talking about videographers, focus breathing. Focus breathing is visible specifically at 24, at 70, it's way less visible, but it is again pretty okay. But I said there is one little flaw with this lens, which is chromatic aberration. It does show quite a lot of chromatic aberration when you get close to some, you know, black and white text. You can see that there's some purple and orange fringing. So that is something that this lens, both on 24 and 70 millimeters, will show. So you know, it's not a deal breaker by any means. It's just something to know. And finally, close-up image quality, because you can get really close with this lens, which is a good news. And coming close to the objects, this lens also is very sharp. At 2.8, of course, the sharpness drops, specifically 24, 70 as well. But if you stop it down to something like 4, the sharpness is practically perfect. So, you know, this is the lens that is built with this idea to perform. This is a very good performer. And very importantly, now my studio is powered completely from solar panels. And I want to give a shout to a company that did not sponsor this video but sent me an awesome stuff. This is AllPowers power station with solar panels, and I'm amazed that I can run this studio 100% free. I can charge all my batteries, run all my lights, all my computers on just this power station. Now, the brutal truth about this lens, because I thought maybe this could be my only lens for my Sony setup, because I also have Fuji setup and I work with other cameras, but for my Sony setup, I thought, it smells good, it looks good, it feels good. This could be the only one guy, and I take it for any session, both videography, you know, both video or photo, and everything is solved. Kind of. So, as I said before, I think you had this taste when I was talking about bokeh, that this is a zoom lens, okay? So don't expect it to perform, you know, as good, as dreamy as 1.435 or as 1.50 millimeter, for example. Those are like my main like workhorses, lenses that both me and my wife, we use a lot. Even now I'm recording with 35 millimeters 1.4. It's stopped down as far as I remember to 1.8, but this, you know, blurry background, this dreamy look is very nice, but it's still very sharp, and so on and so on. So yes, it is a very practical lens, and I would definitely recommend every photographer to have one in their bag if you can afford it, because we didn't talk about the price, because still, despite some years that have passed since its release, it's an expensive lens. I know, it hurts to buy it. So you know, I know very well. So I have to buy lenses. So the point is that as far as I love this lens, as it is a great product and very much improved over the first version of this lens, still I would say that you need a prime lens in your bag. And hear me out. This is very practical, very useful, very convenient, but sometimes convenience is not what you want, and you want the look, you want to have the edge. And while in terms of sharpness this lens gives you the edge, you know, prime lens will give you this look that a lot of people are looking for, or they don't know they are looking for, but in in fact they are looking for that look. I hope that explains that answers your question, if this is the only lens that you could own. Yes, if I was to pick the only lens that I would own, probably this one would be very high on the list, not maybe number one, because there's another lens from Sony that I love. It's actually 20-60. But anyways, long story short, this is one of the highest rated lenses or best performing lenses I tested in a long time. Now, I hope you enjoyed the photos we took with this lens, so you could see that we actually worked with this lens, how it performs in real life, and also some 35mm lens photos or 50mm 1.4. We mix it a little bit to give you this confusion, but I think you can see a little bit of this difference and that this video will help you to make the right choice. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave thumbs up, subscribe, and I see you in the next one. Cheers!